Hey guys, Hailey Lain aka Key Black here with another episode of Off the Cuff. So for the last several episodes, I've been mostly talking about stories that I take inspiration from that I've kind of somehow still felt maybe we're missing something that I really wanted to see in them, or I've only seen one instance of that story where I really saw what I wanted to see in them. Today's episode is going to be very different. Today I want to talk to you guys about a 2019 tabletop role-playing campaign called The Rise of Balxiros, written and DM'd by Jess Sheffield, who you guys know as the writer and director of Behind the Curtain. I had the pleasure of playing a character named Berkeley Tate in this campaign. It ran from 2019 to 2020. Now, I'm gonna preface this as I often do. I had never played D&D or anything like Pathfinder before. I am not somebody I would describe as a nerd. I never was growing up. I was definitely a weeaboo growing up, but as far as nerdy stuff goes, I was pretty normie. I thought I was a nerd until I met Jess and Monpian, who showed me that I hadn't even dipped my toes into high fantasy. I had read like maybe the first 2 books of the Aragon series, and I was aware of the Harry Potter movies as I was growing up, but I had never really been a high fantasy kid, let alone D&D or anything like it. Hell, Jess actually showed me the Lord of the Rings series for the first time I had ever seen it in the middle of this campaign. I hadn't even seen Lord of the Rings going into this thing, so that kind of gives you some background there. But yeah, so The Rise of Balxiros. The setting is pretty much what you would expect for a good high fantasy, a general medieval kind of setting, and the plot is about an unlikely cadre of heroes who join together to defeat an evil sorcerer who is trying to resurrect a great evil upon the world. That is very, very broad strokes. I'm gonna avoid spoilers for this one video, but in the following videos, expect a ton of spoilers. I can't really talk about this campaign without talking about spoilers, so if you're curious, go check out the campaign right now at KaleiWorks.net. All the episodes that are available to listen to have been uploaded there. You might notice that a couple of the first episodes of the series are missing. The reason for that is we originally had one group of players going into it. It was me, C, her brother, and her boyfriend at the time. Things didn't really work out, and so their players ended up leaving the campaign. Jess wrote them out of the plot and brought in a new group of players, John, Nate, Luke, and myself, and the available episodes pick up at that point. The characters in the campaign are, mine was Berkeley Tate, a cleric who was a thief in a past life, you might say, and he's trying to kind of fix his life and turn it around and become a better person. Luke played a character named Valir, who is a possessed ancient suit of armor. John played a character named Finn Arcus, a very accomplished swordsman with a uniquely remarkable sword. And Nate played a character named Zephyr, an elf wizard with a water elemental familiar named Hedreval. The point of me bringing all this stuff up is all 3 of those players are veteran D&D players. I had no idea what I was doing when I was getting into this. I had never done anything remotely like it before. The last RPing I'd ever done was a Tumblr roleplay blog or 3 that had long since been deactivated. I'm really terrible with on-the-spot improv. I still am, I always have been, but at the time, oh my god, the first several sessions were just painfully awkward with me, to the point where Jess, as the DM, actually gave my character Berkeley an emotional support dog in the form of a hyena named Spot. So if you do choose to listen to the episodes, I highly recommend it. The storytelling is spectacular, but you'll probably be able to hear where I get more than a little bit awkward. But most importantly, not only was The Rise of Balxiros my first introduction to real high fantasy and my first foray into tabletop role-playing, it was also the first time that I started to really understand why I liked the character arc story tropes of a redemption story. You know, like everybody loves a Vegeta, but I hadn't really understood why that was the case or why I was so attracted to that kind of story trope until I got the chance to play it out like live on the spot as Berkeley Tate. As I mentioned, Berkeley was a cleric as far as his class went, but he was kitted out like a thief because that's what he actually was. He had basically like donned a cleric's robe and tried to turn his life around, but he had all these skills and this, you know, kind of shoved down hidden past that he was very ashamed of and didn't want to address. Now that all sounds very dramatic because it was in the campaign, but the way I had originally pitched Berkeley was this, you know, kind of a cut purse, common mook kind of guy who was really, really ashamed of having stolen a religious piece of jewelry. And this piece of jewelry would basically be like what sparked his interest in trying to turn his life around. but he'd never really done anything worse than like stealing a purse or two. I had written as one of his main motivations on his character sheet that he would like to be able to return the emblem of call that he had stolen off of a guard back to said guard someday. But I remember at one point in the campaign, this is in one of the lost episodes, during I think our first really big climactic battle, the spirit of that guard appeared to Berkeley and accused him of killing him. I was caught up probably just as off guard as Berkeley was in the campaign. And I talked to Jess afterwards and she revealed, look, Hailey, there's a lot that we can do with this character. You don't even realize the potential. He's probably got more horrible things that he's done than just stealing a couple of purses here and there. He's probably killed a couple people. That's where you'd get the real remorse for his kind of character turnaround from. And I remember, just like I was resistant to the idea of Henry so much as blushing in Behind the Curtain, I was really resistant to the idea of Berkeley actually having killed somebody at some point. But then I thought more about it and I was like, you know what, she's right. That does make for a more dramatic character arc, doesn't it? It also makes it for a lot more believable guilt whenever he's trying to hide the kind of person that he once was. And again, I'm gonna avoid real spoilers in this episode. They're coming in the following ones. But the real crux of this redemption arc's impact hit me in, I want to say, the penultimate session, when the fate of Berkeley's entire character depended on a single question that would basically decide whether or not he even had a chance to redeem himself. I remember sitting there biting my nails, like completely terrified, but also so excited because I had never experienced such amazing storytelling on the spot. Jess had like pages and pages of like options and things that could happen depending on the choices that our characters made. I remember she showed me one once and it was just insane. There was so much work that she put into this. Rise of Balxiros really raised my standards of what I expect out of a good story. I'm still not done with it. Like, I'll still go back and draw things for it. If you guys are curious about some of the art that I've drawn for it over the years, check out my website, keyblack.net. There's like a whole section dedicated to Rise of Balxiros art. I even wrote a song for it called Beware the Eye and the Claw, composed by me, arranged and mixed by Bobby Yarslick, and then performed by the entire gang who played and DM'd for the Rise of Balxiros. But I could talk and talk and talk about this campaign, and I'm gonna save that for later videos and cut this off here. Guys, thank you so much for listening and watching. I will see you guys in the next one. As always, if you have any comments or questions, please do leave it in the comments section, and please talk to me about Rise of Balxiros. Oh my god, I have so much to say about this thing. I do read all of them. I will do my best to answer what I'm able to answer in the following videos, and yeah, see you guys next time. Thanks!